Farmers are facing a lot of trouble due to Maine's disaster from forever chemicals. The situation is causing farms to shut down as well as farmers to lose their livelihoods. For more information on this Maine disaster, keep watching this video for all the details published so far. Let's begin. First up, calamity strikes the Songbird Farm in Maine. Farmlands with sandy loam fields, 3 greenhouses, and a wooded area make up Songbird Farm's 17 acres, located near Maine's central coast. As part of a community-supported agricultural initiative, customers pay to get boxes of locally grown produce from the tiny organic company. The company was purchased in 2014 by farmers Joanna Davis and Adam Nordell from the original owners. And according to Nordell, by 2021, the young family with their 3-year-old boy was in full flow. In December, though, calamity struck, all because Songbird's previous owner had used PFAS-tainted biosolids as fertilizers decades before, a fact the couple was shocked to learn about. According to the results of the test conducted on the area's soil, water, crops, poultry, and blood, there were high concentrations of these dangerous substances in these sources. For their own safety as well as that of their clients, the pair swiftly recalled products, informed the public, and halted operations. According to Nordell, this has completely turned their life upside down. And the scariest part is that they haven't even done a blood test on their own child yet. Next, statewide toxic chemical contamination. When it comes to a looming environmental crisis in Maine, public health groups fear Songbird is just the beginning. More than 700 properties are being investigated by the state for PFAS pollution. Many tests have yet to be completed, but those conducted by a few farmers' associations have found high amounts of dangerous substances. According to farmers who talked to The Guardian, some growers have admitted to suppressing PFAS exposure because they fear economic ruin. No other state is like Maine, but some experts think it's getting more contaminated because it conducts more tests. PFAS is present in all sludge, and over the last few decades, farmers across the country have been using it as a fertilizer more and more. One of the few other states that monitor biosolids and test agricultural products for contamination recently found PFAS-contaminated meat. And according to the secretary of the Sierra Club's wastewater residuals team, Nancy Rain, other states might soon have to deal with what Maine is dealing with. When she inquired about the loss of livelihoods and property values, she wondered who was to blame. Adam Nordell also claimed that their businesses are in doubt and even their lives are in question. Up next, forever chemicals and their effects. To make items resistant to heat, water, or stains, manufacturers turn to the class of chemicals known as PFAS, which includes over 9,000 different compounds. There have been numerous studies linking the so-called forever chemicals, which don't naturally decompose, to a variety of diseases and disorders, such as cancer, thyroid disruption, liver difficulties, congenital malformations, and immunosuppression. PFAS is used in thousands of consumer products and is frequently discharged into the nation's wastewater system by dozens of industries. There are more than 90,000 chemicals and compounds discharged from industry pipelines that make up the sludge byproduct of the wastewater treatment process. It's a hazardous soup, says Laura Orlando, a civil engineer who researches sludge contamination at Boston University. While sludge is expensive to waste due to its high nitrogen and phosphorus content, it's sometimes sold or provided to farmers as biosolids and marketed as a low-cost fertilizer. As the situation in Maine worsens, more people are calling for a ban on PFAS and its byproducts. For the first time in history, the state legislature in Maine is considering legislation that would restrict the use of biosolids that haven't been tested for PFAS. Meanwhile, bankrupt farmers are clamoring for a package of assistance that includes emergency aid, money to help them find a new source of income, and health monitoring for the rest of their lives. According to Nordell, the state has signed sludge licenses, and they can't wait to get started. In this scenario, everything is at risk. The land in question had been owned by Nordell and Davis's predecessors for approximately 25 years, but the owner, who was dying of pancreatic cancer, wanted to make sure the farm he constructed was preserved. Maine's Department of Environmental Protection told Nordell that the pancreatic cancer was not linked to PFAS. The man suspected that his cancer stemmed from his time as a grad student testing pesticides. Still, the fact remains that PFAS has been linked to pancreatic cancer in studies. PFAS levels in Nordell's and Davis's blood were higher than those discovered in employees working for PFAS manufacturers, as revealed by Nordell. Additionally, the farm's PFAS levels are concerning. The PFAS water limit in Maine is 20 parts per trillion, but at Songbird, the concentrations were 8,000 parts per trillion. A sludge limit of 2.5 parts per billion to 5.2 parts per billion was imposed by the state, but Songbird found sludge in its soil as high as 475 parts per billion. There's also the possibility of the PFAS spreading. Nearby Ironwood Farm tested its water and found high levels that may potentially be due to the sludge-packed field next door. It has been a stressful time for the little produce farm, which has had to stop production and await additional test results. Ironwood farmer Nell Finnegan claims he has spent his entire adult life constructing this property. This is a terrible tragedy for anyone who comes up with high enough test score for these substances. Next, disruption in the agricultural industry. The agricultural industry's reluctance to be disrupted and a lack of government limitations for PFAS in food complicate regulation. The Maine Department of Agriculture has established standards for beef and milk, but they only monitor one of the thousands of PFAS that are out there. According to public health organizations, more PFAS substances should be included in testing. Sludge and paper mill waste used as fertilizer at Stone Ridge Farm, a small dairy more than 100 miles south of Songbird, was found to have potentially contaminated its cows and milk in 2016. As a result, the state developed limits for two types of PFAS in sludge. Sludge from Maine was found to have exceeded the limit in 95% of all cases. Due to this, the DEP implemented new limitations on the spread of sludge on farms in 2019 as a response. If the sludge and clean soil's PFAS levels did not exceed state sludge limitations, one rule allowed spreading. Because it permitted clean fields to be poisoned with PFAS, Patrick McCroy, deputy director of the group Defend Our Health Maine, termed the policy crazy. As McCroy stated, a second rule permitted the composting and spreading of sludge, even if the compost contained as much as 100% sludge. These made two enormous holes in the system. Stacey Brenner, a state senator from Maine, presented an amendment to fix the loopholes this year. The senator believes biosolids should no longer be applied to the land. Next up, opposition in the industry. There are concerns that the sludge prohibition may lead to an increase in customer water and sewer costs in Maine. This is because the state's largest waste management business, Casella Waste Systems, says there isn't enough space in its landfills for more sludge. There's also an issue with dumping sludge, since, as revealed by Casella Vice President Joe Fusco, it requires additional material to bulk it up. The DEP informed the legislature that the substance currently occupies roughly 9% of the state's landfills, and that this value would rise to approximately 13% under the new laws. According to Brenner, a plan to abolish a new levy that utilities must pay and is scheduled to take effect soon could help decrease bills. Because Casella owns a large composting plant, it is surmised that Casella's objection is motivated by profit concerns. The company is held accountable by its shareholders, and the situation continues to be what it's always been. But farmers continue to struggle. A more complex issue than how to remove PFAS from the waste stream is being ignored by the argument that Casella is just concerned with its shareholders, according to Fusco. Of course, they want to keep their business in Maine, but passing legislation that makes the state hostile to them is not the solution. Farmers continue to struggle in the interim. In 2019, Stone Ridge slaughtered the majority of its animals. After being denied federal help due to a milk testing coming in slightly below the state standard, co-owner Fred Stone refused to sell his tainted milk. His family of four, which believes PFAS is to blame for everything from thyroid disorders to reproductive issues, is now surviving on assistance and the generosity of friends and relatives. This is the price you pay for having a moral compass and doing the right thing instead of selling contaminated food. The man stated that he has no idea how they would be able to pay their loans. He doesn't know how they're going to live as followers of Christ and has no idea how they're going to get by. PFAS exposure can cause cancer, liver damage, lower fertility, and an increased risk of asthma and thyroid problems, according to a recent interview from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That's a wrap for today's video. What do you think about this disaster in Maine? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and we'll see you in the next one.